Hi, Maddie. We're just gonna wait until since they are just finishing up practice, we're gonna wait a couple of minutes.
Okay.
Thanks for joining. Be back shortly.
Wait, you're leaving?
I'm just gonna mute myself.
Who's there?
No one.
Oh.
But this is just recorded and you never know what people are gonna do or say. So
Oh, I forgot we were being recorded. This is awkward. You could cut this part out.
I can't, but okay. See ya. Hi, Maddie. Are you here still?
I'm here still.
Okay, so I'm just gonna get started so we don't take too long. And Riley is in person and Maddie is on Zoom. And I believe Lisa will be joining us. I'm not sure. And then Brandy's trying to get in the Zoom call. But we're just gonna, I think we should go ahead and start if everyone's okay with that, unless Brandy, did she say anything else that she needs help with?
Yeah, I said, are you in my membership? Not yet,
Okay.
but I'll let you know if she does.
Okay, because if I need to help get her in, I can. We can always, we can always tell her that I think it's recorded and we can like give her access to it if she ends up not being able to get in. No,
Is
is
she trying to join on her computer or her phone?
she trying to, well, we're not sure.
Yeah.
Why? Yeah,
Well, because I had to like copy the link from the band so that I could get it on my computer. But like the first time I pressed copy, but it was copying the like band app post, not the Zoom link. So that was a little bit confusing.
What was that?
so if she's trying to copy and paste the link, make sure she's only copying and pasting the link, not the whole band post.
Okay. When I click the link, it takes me to Zoom. I click join meeting and it doesn't do anything. Keep it up.
Okay,
So right. What?
wait, she's clicking join meeting and it's not doing anything?
Mm-hmm.
Does she have a Zoom account? She does need a Zoom account.
Yeah, she has to sign in.
Oh, this is.
Oh, she's here. Brandy, she made it on Zoom.
Yeah.
But- Lisa, those Olive Garden breadsticks were in the basket that your husband brought.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
want one?
No, I'm okay. I just want to make sure you knew that they were there. Yeah, and they're yours. I know. You were in between the computer and the projector, and I was like, yeah, interesting.
Bottle of wine in there too somewhere.
They smelled really good. I was just like, okay, Lisa's dinner.
Yeah, we had that last night.
Oh,
Brought it
thanks.
home.
Made it into the basket. Hi, Brandy. I'm glad you made it.
Okay, sorry. I had some technical difficulties.
No, that's okay. We were just getting started, and then we're gonna see if we could help you, but I'm bad with this stuff too, so I'm glad you figured it out.
You really?
Okay, so thanks, guys. Today is creating a positive environment. So we're going to talk about culture, discipline, and motivation for our athletes. And oops. Okay, no. Yep. Points we're going to discuss today are importance of culture and the impact that it can have on your season, what you can do to create a culture for your team and for the season, discipline for the results that you want, and how to handle problem athletes, how to get behavior change, that sort of thing. And then we're going to go into motivation and gaining buy-in from your athletes so that the season is more enjoyable for them and you, and more successful. Okay. So I just wanted to put in there this book and give a little credit to it because it is one of the ones that I read this past summer, and it has so much good information. It's called Every Moment Matters. It's by John O'Sullivan, and it's what like sparked my I was like interested in it before, but the things that I talk about and stuff really sparked my like deeper dive into culture and the importance of it. And then it just gives tips on coaching strategies and different things that really can impact you as a coach in your season. A lot of the things that I've talked about in the trainings and meetings so far are from here, and it's what a lot of today's stuff comes from. So just needed to include that in there. Yes, always. We're gonna start with talking about culture. That's the first topic. And so where I want to start here is the difference between positive coaching and culture, because they go hand in hand. They're both things that we all want, but there is a difference in them. And so positive coaching is when you as a coach focus on helping athletes develop and improve their skills, but then kind of that moral character that I previously talked about, where the focus is not only on winning, and it involves positive reinforcement, reaching goals, all of that positive self image and motivation that helps better themselves, and you as a coach have that positive presence on them currently, but then in their future. And so positive coaching is kind of that, like, you can be hard on them, but don't forget the love part of tough love. And then culture is how you get that environment that you want. And so it can include the values, behaviors, traditions, beliefs that your team has that help you reach your goal. And so it pushes you towards your goals, and pushes you to work hard and pulls you towards your goals. And so one of the quotes from the book that I really like is that culture creates the opportunity to win for a team, because without that, it's like you have no guiding principle there. And so you want to have both of these things as a coach and throughout your season. Oh, sorry, Lisa, I can go back. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna take that. Yeah. Okay, so what goes into creating a team culture? There's a lot, but I thought 4 of the biggest things were parents, athletes, coaches, and then the time that it takes. And so starting with parents, because that's genuinely the like foundation and where everything stems from. They bring the kids here. They are what the athletes like hear most from. It changes their attitude and everything. And so your culture starts with them. And so having the parents trust and buy-in and engagement affects everyone. All other things in this process. It affects the athletes, it affects you as a coach, but then it also affects like your investment and how much time you put into it. And so the parents and how you communicate with them, how you engage them, has a huge role in culture and how your season goes. And then the next part of that is athletes. I would say that they are the next biggest part, just because that's like the largest group of people that it entails. And so, and the most time is like spent between coaches and athletes in the gym, which matters. And so that's a huge part of changing your culture or creating it. And so whenever you're focusing on your athletes, that will include things like changes in your attitude, behavior, mindset, that then will affect their performance and how they interact with other people. For all of these things on the upcoming slides, I'm going to talk about ways that you change or create this culture. This slide is just more so people or things you have to think about when you are wanting to make this change or go in a certain direction. Next is coaches. So we have to put in the work diligently to improve ourselves, because what you pour into yourself really matters. If you want to pour into other people, your cup has to be full and you have to take care of yourself, like mentally, physically, all the things that it takes to like take care of other people, and then like make sure you're building something really strong and great. And then we have to be consistent with those standards and expectations, because that is a huge, the standards and expectations and how you approach that and go about it is just like one of the most important base factors of creating a culture. And then lastly is time that it takes. So going off of what I just said about coaches, like being diligent with yourself, but then also like very persistent with your team as well. It takes so much time. It's not going to happen overnight, but it includes time outside of the gym that will be for planning, restructuring, organizing, anything for those extra activities, bonding, all that it takes. So it's not just an in the gym at practice like fix that can happen quickly, and patience is required because any type of change takes a long time. So it can be frustrating to wait a while, but having that patience and knowing that it's going to take some time to create a change is very important. Okay, so now ways that you can establish your culture. So a lot of this is going off of things that I talked about in the original staff training, but we're gonna look at it again here and then dive a little bit deeper into each one, and again, how you can create or implement like these types of things in your team practices or whatever it is. So with everyone involved, like from the previous slide, there is so much that can be done to grow or create your team culture. And so here are some ways that we can start. I'm going to go through these ones that I think like lay a good foundation, but there's truly so much that goes into it. And so first is mindset changes from everybody involved. And that again includes coaches, athletes, parents, and changing your, with the next one, your attitude and your energy about how you look at everything, and focusing on that, like the process and your progress over perfection and the end goal is a really hard mindset to change, especially in this day and age. Like kids want a quick solution and a quick like perfection. They want to reach their goal really fast, and they get frustrated if they don't, because there's so much pressure on them to be good and be perfect. And so working to change that mentality is huge, and will have a big impact on your culture, because how they communicate with each other, how they feel at practice, how they respond to any situation on the mat, off the mat, all stems from their mindset. Energy and their attitudes. The energy aspect of that is what I again had mentioned before about being a thermostat, not a thermometer. And so if you feel that the energy is low, don't just keep it low, do something to change it. If your team has really high energy, which is great, but if it's like that out of control energy, know when to bring it down. But you also want to be able to create that energy at practice, during a full out, at competition, that we all know like truly impacts how they do on the floor. Like I think we've all had the feeling or heard the feeling like after a full out, whenever the team is led, that one felt good, the energy on the mat was good. And that can just be like by chance, but I think it also can be created with what you teach and preach and implement. The kids' attitudes and responses to things are so important, and making sure that we as coaches model that and talk to them about what attitude they can have about things when things go wrong, when things go right, when things are hard. They even junior, senior teams don't always know how to react or how they should react, how you want them to react. And so again, modeling that, explaining what behavior, like what you want is, can be a good solution, a good way to implement that culture, because they're not just going to come up with it on their own. The next thing on there, standards and rules. This one again is a review, but something that I've been doing so far this season, and that is said to have a good, like it influences that mindset change for athletes and coaches, is always using standards and expectations over rules, just because rules have a more negative connotation, and it seems like there's like a power, like a dominance that a coach feels that they can implement these rules, and that you'll be in trouble if you don't follow them, which that's the same thing as a standard, but it gives the athlete something to work for instead of something that they don't want to do. So you can hold them to that standard and use that word more, but then also just like frame it more so as this is our standard of what we want to do, instead of this is a rule of what not to do. And then just that different verbiage and idea of that kind of creates a better attitude, a more positive mindset about how they're going to act and how they're expected to act, just from like a different phrase or way to frame it.
So on our consequence sheet, you should start using the word, these are standards, and get away from saying these are the rules, you break them, you're going to
Right.
fair calls.
And yes, like, so yeah, for a good example, like on there is like talking back to your coach. So instead of like, our rule is you don't talk back to your coach. Our standard is that you would respect a coach. And then it's like, these are the ways that you can, or like would go against that. Because I mean, also with that, like, I think all athletes, even though if they're that problem athlete, all athletes want to impress their coach, impress their friends. And so if they do something good and you can acknowledge them for like meeting that standard, then it feels more like of a compliment. It's more exciting to them than like telling somebody that they broke a rule or like not acknowledging it. So meeting a standard is also like better for an athlete versus a role. Goals is next on the other side. And so obviously having goals for yourself, for your team, talking about them, but then having your team write down their goals. I said it at the first training, but I'll say it again. If you haven't already had the team discuss goals for the season and for themselves, or write them down on paper. I prefer every season I have the team write down their goals. I strongly suggest you do that soon. If you haven't already, just that gives something to work for, and it gets it like out of your brain and on paper for like, yes, this is what I want to reach this season. And I usually encourage it to be a season goal for the team and for yourself, so also a personal goal, but then something big and like success oriented, maybe like winning cheer sport, hitting full out every competition, whatever it may be, but then also a goal for your team and for yourself that isn't so ability based. So maybe it's like be a better teammate even when I'm frustrated, or like respect my coaches more, things like that are more attitude and behavior based that they can do for themselves and their team that also have an impact. So creating goals and having that vision to work for and always go back to is super important for your culture, because it is an underlying guiding factor. Having engagement and buy-in from everybody involved. I kind of touched on this on the last slide, but parents, athletes, they need to believe in what you are preaching and what you are coaching, just as much as you believe in it. Like, we are all so passionate, and so that is great, but nothing is going to happen if that passion, if that buy-in isn't on the mat and what they're hearing at home. And so just continuous, persistent preaching about what you believe, what your goals are, what you want the end goal to be for the team, and then not just saying it, but creating that engagement. On the next slide, we're going to talk about ways to do that, but giving them opportunities to bond with each other, giving them opportunities to create goals and understand their why and create those mindset changes. You have to be the person that facilitates that engagement, because without that connection and that buy-in, nothing is going to happen. And then lastly on there, it is similar to goals, but everybody having their own personal why, having values and having a purpose. We all did this at the coaches training in August, and every single athlete should do it too, for the same reason that we did. Whenever I first introduced it for the coaches, it was so we have that guiding principle. So when you're frustrated, when you just want to walk out on your team, when you're crying after practice or competition, you have that statement to go back to. You have your why, like, do I really do this so they can hit on the mat and that's why I'm crying? No, but did they learn a life lesson today? Yes. And so it was a success. And so that why and what you value and having that purpose statement is great for us. And so just a reminder that you have that for yourself, or if you want to develop that further, you can and should. But also for athletes, they need to have that for themselves. And for younger ones, it might not be as in-depth and serious as the older kids or us coaches, but even young athletes have goals and they have a reason why they're here. And it's probably not just because their mom made them, and it's going to be hard to get them to think about it. But if they know their why, if they like the connection, if they like the process of what they go through to then feel good on the competition floor, whatever it is, same as us, when things get hard, when things are rough, we can all remind them, think about why you do what you do, think about your values. And this goes for the team as well. So coaches should create them, individuals can create them, but then sitting with your team and creating clear values, clear standards, clear goals that everybody as a unit, not an individual, can look back on and use as a guiding force. Truly can change how they go about things and then what their reaction or response is after something goes wrong. So with all of that, here are some ways that you can establish this and do all of those things, from either the conference, things I've done in the past, the book. This is just like kind of a combined list of a bunch of things. And so I'm sorry if I jump around here on this slide, but they might just go better together if I talk about it like that. I'm going to start with the team retreats, no cheer, cheer camp, and those two might go best together. But specifically the team retreat or team meeting. So we all had like a beginning of season meeting, which is laying those ground rules, talking about goals, all of that stuff. What me and Maddie did with Fly Girls at one of our first practices this season that was fully attended was we called it a team retreat, and we did our parent meeting and made a list of things we would talk about with them. But then we also did a retreat with them where we printed out worksheets, we sat in a circle, we had an activity, and all of it was based around creating our team culture. We talked about goals, we had them write their why, we had them write the reasons they loved cheer, we had them write what we could do better for them as coaches, all that kind of stuff. And then it was a bit of team bonding there. So that's a way that you can create that stuff. The no cheer camp is something you could do scheduled extra if it's approved by us, or at a practice if you're just wanting to have a little break. But it's a camp, but you don't cheer, and you focus on things like leadership, having fun, the mental aspect, mental toughness of cheer, and different bonding. Off of that, surprising your team at practice randomly. I am the first one to say that I hate wasting practice time with any sort of game or anything. But I am trying to change that because of the importance it can have. And we actually did do a surprise. This season with Fly Girls, we surprised them with like a karaoke party instead of conditioning at the end of practice. But anything, an example at the conference that they gave was don't say anything at all, have the kids think they're coming into normal practice, but then when they come into practice, you have like different stations of games set up, or you have some like the bounce house set up or something like that, that it's just like fun. It makes them intrigued. It's unique each time, and it makes them excited to come. Different team bonding events throughout the season, which is something I might try and promote more. Maybe that's the word for this season. I feel like we've kind of gotten away from that from my first few years coaching here to now. There used to be a lot more like outside of CTA team bonding, and it helps the team come together so much. So I think that's something we can try to get back to. If you're looking to do that, just reaching out to the Spirit parents helps a lot, because they will usually be the one to coordinate that. And if you have an idea, just let them know. Something that I want to try this season is like a parent coffee meetup, or the other option they said, I heard somewhere, was like a parent lunch bunch, where for the coffee one, it's like before practice one day, you just tell them that I'm going to have coffee and donuts for any parent that wants to come and chat for 30 minutes before practice. If no one shows up, oh, well, at least you reached out. And if people do, it doesn't even have to be about cheer, just getting them to know them on a more personal level and hanging out. But it's again, just a way that you are reaching out and getting that connection and engagement, and a little bit of bonding. The other side, having those, so this is something you could establish at like your team meeting or something, but team specific fun and games that you guys do that aren't administered or facilitated by management. So like just something that is specific to your team, and also along with that, different traditions, sayings, hashtags, anything, beliefs that is specific to your team that makes them feel like a unit and not just, oh, another team in CTA. And then just to not forget about the importance of that engagement and connection with parents and athletes on an individual level. So writing a note to an athlete or a parent that you saw exhibit great behavior or effort, holding somebody after practice and just telling them how proud you are of them. And something I heard recently, like, and I think it was research for OT, but the importance of saying you should be proud of yourself instead of saying I am proud of you. That statement just flips it and gives them that autonomy of being proud for themselves, not just like extrinsic motivation. And then always reaching out to parents with a message, or if you see them in person, and thanking them for bringing their kid, thanking them for being a great parent, or telling them how great their kid was or how good they're doing. So those are just some ways that you can establish your culture. There's a lot more, anything you do for your team specifically to have that connection, that team essence, the like we over me mindset is huge. Okay, now we're going to go into discipline talk. And so discipline and reinforcement, just a few things I want to talk about before we get into like the nitty gritty of it. And so the reaction versus response the reaction versus response that comes after a negative behavior is a huge part of how you handle a negative situation. And it is something that I am working so hard on, because I think like me saying it is a good example, because you all know me as a coach, but reaction is your first instinct. It is the look you have on your face. It is the emotion behind it. And the response is how your deeper self feels. It's the more logical part of it. It's how you want, if you could look back and change things, how you would probably want to respond. And as we all know, I'm a very emotional person and coach. And so I typically will react, and then later on respond and try to fix that. And I'm working very hard. It is so hard to hold that reaction in, because you so bad want to just snap and yell at them or cry or leave the gym or whatever it is. But to hold it in, give it, even if the athlete does or says something and you have to take like 30 seconds to not respond, or not react, I should say, and then respond better, but focusing on that response is huge. And just an example with that, and it's a personal one, I will come like at myself for this one, but there was a complaint, maybe we'll call it, from a parent last season that my reactions after competitions for one of my teams, whenever they would do bad, my reactions weren't appreciated. I'm a crier. I get real mad. I don't usually like do that in front of like, I'll cry, but then I usually will say the like, it's okay, it happens, whatever. But what the parents saw was my reaction, me like freaking out and crying. Instead, and the parent wanted a different reaction, thought it was immature, whatever. And it probably was, like, I'm learning and growing. But I feel like that gave me, once I saw that complaint happen, and then I learned about this reaction versus response. And that's the first thing I thought of, because I wasn't responding appropriately. Like, I can't change what happened. That was my reaction, but I wish I could have, and I'm going to try to respond better to those negative situations. And so I hope maybe that example like shows that difference a little bit better, because what I showed first to the parents was my reaction, but then how I presented it to the athletes after like a couple minutes had passed was my response, which I should have went with in the first place. Next, just remember that anything that you don't condemn, you condone. So if you let things slide, they think it's okay, and it's going to keep happening. Always praise effort, not ability. If we praise ability, then it seems like nothing is ever good enough, or that even when they are trying, that you think they're not, that type of thing. So praise their effort, praise that they're trying. You can phrase it as like, I see that you tried so hard, but, and then say like the corrections that you want to be made. Just wanted to put a little reminder about the moral and performance character development and the distinction between those. So the performance is those things that we have on the mat, like effort and discipline and commitment, but the moral character aspects of being kind and being a good teammate and like an encouraging person, a motivated person. And as coaches, we want to focus and develop both of those. Remember that discipline and reinforcement is going to be very individualized. Everybody comes from a different background. They have their own history. We don't know what's going on at home, and that is probably the core source of their behavior. And so it might, what one thing isn't going to work for everybody. Going into the next point, you're going to have to be creative and patient and persistent with all of your efforts, because it is hard to change a behavior. And one thing isn't a blanket statement that can just be said and fix everything. Okay, so this is the 5 steps for shaping behavior change for a problem athlete. That this is directly taken from that book that I mentioned. And so number 1 is you should identify the standard or behavior that's not being upheld, and don't let it go on for too long, and be very specific about it. So you can't just say that you're disrespecting me. That's like too general, but identify the specific thing that you want changed. Then number 2 is help them see it through a teammate's eyes and say, this is how what you are doing is making your team feel. This is how it's impacting them. Number 3, ask them, is that who you want to be? Is that the teammate you want to be? Is that the person you are? Usually they are not focused on other people, not in any way besides like they probably are frustrated and just got called out, and so they can't see the bigger picture of it, and they're young. That's hard to do when you're young. And so explaining it through others' eyes and asking them, like, is that the person you want to be, can really just click something in their brain that changes that. Asking, how can I help you change this behavior? Giving them that chance to speak and that autonomy to give you something to do to help them, because they might just have a simple solution that's like, yeah, I need XYZ to help me. And then lastly is praise them when they exhibit that new positive behavior. And then when that happens, especially if it's a severe problem athlete, they exhibit the new positive behavior, praise them, and then immediately up the standard for them, and then praise them again when they meet that new standard. It can't go on for too long, because then they're going to get too comfortable with just that like new level. So you have to keep upping it. But that is more all on like a one-on-one level. Keep it very intimate and giving them the chance to speak and give have a say in what they would like to help change it, is what the book recommends for changing behavior. I haven't used this yet personally, probably pretty close, so I'll let you know. But
The active person like you,
Mhm.
so. This was just like the 5 steps I could, if I'm angry and someone tells me so-and-so was talking poorly about another person and they're upset because they heard it.
Mhm.
If instead of me saying something that I probably would regret, if I focused on that, it'd be more of a professional sounding. And instead of a lecture and gets them to be hearing me better.
Right,
So,
yes, that
did they talk about
communication.
that, like taking that and asking them the questions directly, or as a group, I guess you could do it too, or?
I think either, I think if it's a team-wide issue, I think like some of this could be applicable to like the group, I think this specifically, well, no, I think a lot of it could, like, all of it could be applied to the group, but the way the book was talking about it was individual, like a one-on-one conversation, but I think that you can absolutely turn it into a group thing and kind of explain your side of it, because I think when athletes like respond back or get frustrated with coaches, a lot of the times they don't see it from our eyes either, and so explaining like this is how I feel as a coach, blah 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 blah, and this is what I want to see could definitely change like a group as a whole.
So Shelby whispered in my ear that Ashlyn said she overheard another athlete of ours, say something negative about another athlete that just became a crossover. And, the immediate reaction is, you know, and then I go, I do. But if I addressed it, I said, remember that? I said, something about, it's not nice to talk about, you want to be happy for others and their success and not be negative. I tried to get general, but I felt like I didn't do a really good job, but I felt it's okay.
No, I felt like we did so well. I think it just, we didn't know the whole story and then it was happening.
And then the person that it was, that we found out that that person was started to cry. And even though I didn't say names, so I don't know.
I feel like
If I did the right thing.
I think I would say that you did. I wasn't there, but I feel like that's usually a good way to go about it. Like I do think that first a general statement is usually good. Like just, and not specifically like this person or this person, but like, hey, remember to like your comments can hurt, your words can hurt people and things get around and whatnot. So be mindful of what you're saying. But then if it continues to be a problem, either try like one more time, generally try gently calling them out about it, but like if it persists, then do this one-on-one is maybe the timeline of that. But yeah.
And that's probably when Shelby had to talk with her in the background. Those are when you talk to them about,
Yeah.
Is this what you want to be? Yeah, this is how so-and-so would feel hearing those words.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, putting it in someone else's eyes, like, can just help you realize, like, oh, that's not what I meant to do. Yeah. Okay, so there's different types of discipline and reinforcement. I'm gonna try to not make this like a psychology lecture, but I think it's important to understand when you're trying to change or shape a behavior. So I wanted to include it. There's positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, punishment, and then you can ignore the behavior. And so positive reinforcement is when you reward a positive behavior so it keeps happening in the future. That is what I feel is most used in the gym, which is good. Negative reinforcement. So I'm gonna go back. Positive reinforcement is like shouting out someone and giving them a lollipop whenever they are standing tight, and then everyone on the team is like, okay. Negative reinforcement is whenever something bad is taken away so that the behavior you want happens more, which is also used a lot when we are all like, if you hit this full out, we don't have to condition. That is, you're taking away the conditioning for the behavior that you want. And then hello. Punishment is whenever you add something bad or aversive to modify that behavior. So there's an example on there, but when you yell at your kid or an athlete, then they would associate anytime that they do something bad, they're going to get punished, they're going to get yelled at, and so then it hopefully makes them not do that anymore. And then ignoring is when you ignore it, it keeps happening. There's no like response to a positive or negative behavior. And so there's really nothing to change because there's no desire to change or motivation to like avoid something else. And so please try not to ignore. That's that one. And research shows that the most effective behavioral strategy is the positive interval variable ratio reinforcement schedule. That's a lot of words, but it's not anything crazy. It's just a lot of words for no reason. And so here's an example of that. And so this is an example of like a child in school, obviously, but applies very closely to an athlete and a coach. And so it is whenever you're randomly reinforcing the behavior. So as you see on the consequence side, there is pretty even amount of like not acknowledging it and then acknowledging it. And it's at a variable rate. So acknowledge it once, then 2 times it's ignored, then again, and so on. You can see that. But they just did studies on different reinforcement strategies, and this was the one that had the most behavior change following it. And so I think the one end of it all would be completely ignoring, and that would be no reinforcement ever, no discipline, you're not doing anything. And then the other end would be where all of it was green, where you just consistently acknowledge. And I think a lot of us tend to do, I mean, I know I do, like anytime something good or bad happens behaviorally, not skill, but that like behavior, I usually either always call it out for bad, or if it's that problem athlete that you're trying to get better, every time they do something good, I acknowledge it because I think like, oh, they're going to keep doing it. But according to this, every time they do something bad or good, whatever it is, doing it at this random ratio is supposed to, I can't guarantee, but be the most effective. I just found that interesting whenever I was researching things, wanted to include that in there because it could help if anybody wanted to try doing it that way. Okay, so how can we carry this over and implement it into our practices? Just a few things on what can help whenever you're in the moment at a practice. Remember that performance is a behavior and not an outcome. So performance just doesn't happen because something else happened, but you have to change, you can change like different behaviors, and what they choose to do is the behavior that creates the outcome. Under that one, standards and rules in all aspects for like your standard of skill, your standard of performance, that's actually like talent-based matters, but also those behavioral standards, having those in place instead of rules influences that all of the behaviors. So hold them to that standard and then continue to raise it always. You don't want just a stagnant standard throughout your whole season, because once you reach that point, you're not going to ever get any better unless the standard is raised in-house, not counting on other teams to raise that standard. You should do that as a coach. Consistent punishment, which I don't want it to be going against what that last slide said about like the interval randomized reinforcement, but I think with the variable ratio of it that was on the last slide, consistently punishing I think that more so goes with your standards, consistently holding them to that standard is what is important. So you can like call it out, recognize it as good on that variable chart, but then consistently having that standard that they are being upheld to and being called out for whenever they're not meeting it is important and can be done every single practice. It should be. To avoid the negative behaviors, explaining the why behind what you're doing at practice, but then the why behind your response. We kind of talked about this with your question, Lisa, but like why you care as a coach, why you want that behavioral change can help the athletes understand from a different perspective about how what they're doing impacts their team. Something that helps if on a skill level they are not reaching that standard, what can help push them to have that success or meet that standard is having the team define what success looks like. So just like, hey guys, we're going to do our elite stunt. When do you guys think we should be done or get a drink break, and letting them follow through with that, because as a coach, we can't force them to do anything. So if they say, we just want to do one and done, we're all going to be so mad about that, but okay, that's what you picked. But a lot of the times, whenever I've tried this season, it'll be answers that you want them to say, but you like wouldn't expect. You would think that they want to do it just like once, but I've gotten answers like when it has good technique, whenever my coaches are happy with it. Those answers that we want really help, and it has the team at that point setting their own standard, which is very beneficial because then they know exactly where they need to be. Be persistent with the love and support that you're providing during all of the challenges and negative behavior. It is so easy whenever things are frustrating or when you're working with those problem athletes to just stay frustrated and have this negative connotation in your mind about them. Like we all have that person in our mind that's like, they are so aggravating to me, but we have to, like I said, like I started this with, we can't forget the love and tough love and that support of them, because if they don't feel connected to you, if they don't feel loved, they're going to have no motivation to change the behavior. They're just going to think like, okay, well, she doesn't like me anyways, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because it's not going to change anything. And so as persistent as you are with punishment, try to match that with love and support, because also you don't know what's going on behind the scenes and at home, so they might need that extra support and love to get them through. So I put this in here because I am preaching about this, and this is a text that I sent yesterday. Yesterday morning, I was basically crying because blank are disrespectful and don't respond to any discipline, and I don't know what to do. So it is not easy. It is not one size fits all at all. It is so frustrating. But there is some things that can help, and you'll always get through it. But I just wanted to add this because I feel like with all of that, sometimes it makes it kind of seem easy. Like if you do this and that, then the behavior will just be good. But I feel like I've tried all of it and it is still what it is. And so if you feel that way or something's going on that you don't know what to do about, reach out and I'll try to help. But also it's okay, I'm in the same boat. So
What can we do to help you?
I don't know. I don't know. I think, like I kind of hinted at before, I think that my next step will be, even though I've talked to people individually, is like truly implementing that 5-step plan and trying to stick by it. But then on the other end, like creating these PowerPoints helps me so much, because I think that last point I made about love and support is probably lacking on my end in this situation too. And so I think I'm going to try to raise both of those, like my connection with them to get them involved and see it from another person's eyes, but also on my end, I probably can improve things. So,
Or if it's somebody that's been consistently doing the same poor behavior, it may just be a challenge, should take longer to get the end result.
yeah. I hope so, because there's days whenever it's great, and then there's Monday night when it's that text message. Yeah, so now we're gonna go into motivation. This is the last section. And we're gonna talk about the types of motivation there are first, because both are important. And so you have intrinsic motivation and extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic comes from that internal source. That's what's like in yourself, your brain telling you that I dance because I enjoy it. That is basically your why. When we're creating that, that's your intrinsic motivation. What drives you to work hard, stay in the sport, to have the desire to continue when things get hard and have that love for it. That is intrinsic in yourself. And then extrinsic are those things that are outside of you. So awards and rewards at competition, or if we give them out at the gym at the end of practice, whatever it is, or from any outside person or source. So it can be their parents, their teachers. In this case, I'll specifically be talking about their coaches, but what motivates them on the outside to continue. And that could be anything that impacts them from another person, like the motivation and positive reinforcement that we give. And each person has 3 basic psychological needs that impact motivation. And the 3 things are competence, autonomy, and relatedness. Having those 3 whenever you're looking at how to motivate somebody or how someone is motivated, what gives us like motivation within ourselves are super important. And so we'll just go down the list, and it has like what that need is, and then ways as a coach we can assist that specific category to keep them motivated and motivate them. So competence is that belief that you are capable of anything that you want to do or any skill that you want to achieve. So as coaches, we can help athletes set realistic, achievable goals, and giving them something to work for that is within reach. And that is going back to the importance of having those personal, non-skill based goals. Skill ones can happen too, and be set. They should be set as like, I want to get a tuck, get a back handspring if it's achievable, but also those things that are, again, my last example, I will be a better teammate. That is something that can be achievable and realistic for any person, and that will be different based on that person and their behavior. Giving them the opportunity to fail and knowing that they are free to fail. When you fail, it's a learning experience, not a failure, even though it says fail there, but you win or you learn, you don't win or lose. And so giving them that opportunity to mess up and know that the process and making progress is what's important. Allowing them to explore their creativity. An example that I read was just giving athletes that free time, and we kind of give them the chance to make up a routine or something and have fun doing the sport. And then like they can have their choreography, whatever it is, that just gives them kind of goes into the next one, but the autonomy to think that, oh, I can do this, I'm creative, I'm in control, I'm capable of the things that like are expected of me. Ask for feedback and provide feedback. This one is kind of a blanket point for all of them. Under each one, the article had asking for feedback. Your athletes' opinions are huge, but whenever they give you feedback and then you follow through with that, it gives them that sense of I spoke my opinion and then it got handled, it got taken care of, what I asked for came true. So like I'm capable of making a change and doing more, but then also providing feedback on anything that they do. So then that kind of gives them that goal to set for. So when you make a correction and then they change it and then correct, like fully correct what skill it is, then that they have that feeling of competence that they're capable of making a change. The next one is autonomy. And so that's the belief that the task is under your self-control, that feeling of individuality, in, you know, being an individual, your own person, that you like are in control of anything you do in your task. And so again, explaining the why behind everything and telling them, what it is that is expected of them. Explain your why, give them the chance to have their own why when they do each task. Give them choices when you can. As coaches, we can be manipulative about these choices, give them two things that you want them to do, but if they make the choice, it seems better to them. And so in any way, shape, or form that comes up, whenever they can make the choice, it can change things because they're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of coaching practice today, when really you didn't care what they picked because both were beneficial. Involving them in the process. So kind of along with that, if you ask them to come up with a practice plan for the day, if you have them say, this is what I want to do, what order do you want to do it in? Watching videos and correcting themselves, any of that, but involving them in the process gives them a feeling of control. Allow them to serve as leaders, whatever it, in any way that it can be, leading stretch, leading conditioning, giving accounting for another group, anything that they can feel needed and be a leader. And then again, importance of effort, not outcome or ability. Whenever they put the effort in, and you praise that they like tried and that was enough, then that gives them that feeling as well. And then lastly, the feeling of relatedness, or the need, I'm sorry, it's the need for positive social relationships throughout the task. So this is basically that last aspect of connection, enjoyment, love for what you do. And so we just have to remember that they do come here and we want them to win and be successful and be good, but we also should want them to enjoy it and love each other and pour into their team and each other as much as they can. And so bonding activities, games, whatever it is to give them time to connect, and then having that positive coach athlete relationship that has a foundation of trust, care, and respect, because without those things, whatever comes after that isn't going to be as great as if those are like at the foundation of what you create. And so those three things, the competence, autonomy, and relatedness, drive motivation. And now we're going to go into motivation strategies. I think we are doing very well at this in the gym, and some of this is from things I've seen here, things I've done here, but then other things I've seen online. Very common are giving stickers, giving people points, giving like filling a jar of marbles, anything like that, that you reward a behavior and you give them a sticker. The point system I typically use because it doesn't take as much time as like giving everybody a sticker, but I just have everybody's name on a list, and when they do something good, they get a point, and then the person with the most points just gets whatever it is, gets to sit out of conditioning, gets a prize, whatever. Keeping all of this skill-based but also behavior-based has been life-changing for me this season. Whenever you acknowledge that, like, you can have the prettiest tumbling on the team, but at the end of practice, you still have 0 points because you're not a good teammate, can really change behavior sometimes. And so giving points for being respectful, communicating well, cheering on your teammates really helps. Prize box and candy, kind of what we talked before, for that positive reinforcement. When they do something good, they can get a prize. If everyone's good at the end of practice, they get a prize. Those are similar with skill boards and games to use as motivation. The skill boards is just like if you have your tumbling skills on a poster board, and if they do them, they get a sticker for those goals that you want them to meet. Full out trackers to either your progress towards like being able to do a full out, or every time you hit a full out to track that, because then that can be motivating. You can do that in different ways, like adding a charm to a bracelet every time they hit one and they want to fill it up, coloring in something on a board every time and they want to get that. A bunch of different ways to motivate them to want to hit. Secret Star on there is something me and Maddie did a couple seasons ago. At the beginning of practice, we would secretly pick someone's name out of a bag and put it sealed in an envelope. Nobody would know. At the end of practice, we would reveal who it was. And if that person like had good behavior and tried hard, then the whole team would get a prize. And if they didn't, then we didn't get a prize. And that was pretty effective because nobody knew who it was. And so if it was you at the end, you wouldn't want to let your team down. So that one was good that I put on there.
Would you tell them, like, say that the person that was in the envelope wasn't good, would you be like, this was the person in the envelope, they were not being a good teammate today, so no one gets told?
No, I think we didn't, so we said their name when they were good. We
Okay.
didn't say their name when they didn't get the prize, because that is, they could just like pick on them and that's bad, but we did like say specifically why that person didn't, so
But
like.
not do.
Yes, if they were talking while a coach was talking, if they never were standing tight when they were supposed to, we would say why. And then at the beginning of the next practice, probably bring that up again, like, oh, we're picking secret star. Remember, we didn't get it last practice because our secret star was talking when the coach was talking. So they had it at the end of the last practice and then like the beginning of practice, like, oh, don't talk. Yeah. And then this is the.
Do you ring the bell?
Yes, for tumbling skills. Kids are motivated by that too, yeah. This slide is a bunch of different ways. I don't know if we've used any of these specifically here, but I got them from different Facebook posts, research things, whatever it is that different gyms teams use to motivate their athletes. And so like quickly going through here, the top is a point system for a more skill-based thing. Once you reach a certain amount of points, you get a reward of some sort. The one below that is creating a bingo sheet. And any sort of game like that, along with the next one where she's playing pop-up pirate, where the girl's so excited, you like pull out a sword. That one is usually played for like every mistake in a full out. You could do it either way, either a mistake in a full out or something good. That's the amount of swords they get to pull. And so when you pull a sword, the pirate pops, and you can, again, as a coach, decide what you want. When it pops, you have to do a full out if it's bad stuff, or when it pops, you're done doing full outs for the day. And that is a good way to motivate them, but also that does give them the sense of like, you guys are choosing, not me. It's kind of just by chance. Down here is what I said for the full out tracker, coloring in every time you hit a full out or do one, whatever you want to do. And then there could be rewards along the way. The cup one I thought was pretty cool. You put sticky notes in it with what they have to do. If they hit it to your standard, then the cup leaves, but if they don't, then they do conditioning that is also in that cup and it stays in the pile, so they may have to do it again because the cups are at random. The one besides that, the banana one, can be done like in a bunch of different ways, but I included it on here because the silliest, most random things will motivate your kids to do things no matter what age. Like you would think at this point stickers would be done by the time you're a senior aged kid, but I swear Fly Girls will do anything to get a little smiley face sticker. And so that's like low level of it, but I swear they would do even more for this like little banana. I'm gonna maybe look into buying that or something like it, because the silliest things will get your athletes to do anything you want. So don't be afraid to do something out of the ordinary, buy something that you may think is weird, but will get them excited. The bottom two down here, we might actually see in our gym soon, just because I saw them again and it inspired me that maybe we can implement it gym wide. But those are more so encouraging those standards of being a good person, teammate, creating that culture. And so sticky notes to encourage a friend, that one's obviously for school, it says a test, but if it's the day of your first full out, if it's the day of our showcase, and we say, write something nice to someone on there, and then as people come in, they take one and it's like a encouraging message. And then the next one I think is really cool for people to like take with them forever, but a poster board with the kid's name on it. This gym called them yes boards for your extra special. And then each like day, each practice, each week, whatever you would like to do, every person has their own board, and the team writes like something good about them, a positive message, encouraging words, and then maybe the practice before your first competition or before summit, regional summit, whatever it is, they get their poster and they just are going into it with that different mindset and that feeling of like, my team cares about me and this is why they think I'm good, all those types of things. And so as you can see from this slide, because this is only like a few of the probably hundreds of things that you can use to motivate your kids, be creative, and there are endless solutions. And the book, the All-Star book that is in the gym, that binder, has other ideas on there that we have available to us already at CTA. There's Jenga in the gym that I use a lot as a game. There's the one where you pull out the sticks and the marbles fall that you can use in any way that you want. Playing cards are always great. You can be creative with, write skills on it. It's endless things that you can do. And we do have things in the gym to help you with that, but also pretty easy to make, as you can see here. If anybody has questions on these, on things we have in the gym for more ideas, I'm happy to help.
For the Jenga?
Yeah.
You saw the big jumbo ones? The big Jenga, the ones we have in a big black thing back there?
I
Did you see that?
didn't see those, but
It's
no.
like, they're like huge, they're like blocks like
Yeah,
that. And
yeah.
it's a huge one, it's in a black Ziploc bag.
Okay,
And when I've used it, I'll just take index cards, and one time I did it for when I wanted to do sections, and you know, I'd write jumps or this or whatever, or you can do it for anything you want, but I just use index cards. I write on the index cards, take them, and then you can remove them and someone else can do whatever they want.
yeah, that's a good option. If people have like the different sections or different things that they want to do. The plain Jenga blocks are also like for this time of year, if you want to use something when we're like not doing full outs or running routines, to be creative with that, because the smaller ones in there that I brought, it's already written on there like with Sharpie, but it's like all stunts, full out, that kind of thing that like no one's at that point yet. So the plain ones for this point in our season would be better to
Cool.
use.
But
Yeah,
the plain ones, they can make it whatever they want, it doesn't
Yeah.
even have to deal with your stuff, your routine.
yeah, absolutely. That's good. I didn't know that they were back there, so that's great. But yeah, even if you're like thinking about it later down the line, come competition season, and you need a new way to motivate your team, this will be available to everybody, like this slide. But if you have any more questions or need ideas, just reach out, because I can research or help like develop an idea or something like that. Because it's usually fun to think about ways that you can make your team work harder and all those things. So thank you. That's the end. But just if you need anything, have questions about this or anything else, if you have that like problem athlete or situation or whatever it is, and need more advice or want more from the book, like I have a bunch of notes on it that is just too much to put in here, so I can maybe help in more detail from what I know. But you're all capable too of getting through it and doing it. So you got it, but I'm always here.
PowerPoint on the wall too, by the way.
Yeah, it's nice to have. I was here, I'm like on Zoom, but then have to click it on both computers, but talking this way, so it might have been, I'm sorry, Zoom people, if you saw the back of my head the whole time, but it was really nice to have it big here. Yeah, but thank you guys. Maddie, Brandy, any questions or anything before I stop this? No, hello. No, they both said no. Well, thank you guys. I'm gonna stop the recording and stuff, but thanks for coming and have a good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Nancy. Bye,
Bye.
Oops, okay.
Good
And
job.
You guys get